After the wedding, my daughter-in-law showed up at my place with a notary. We just sold this house. You're moving to a facility for the elderly. I said, wonderful. Let's go to the police station first. They're very interested in what I sent them about you. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. If I stumble today, my granddaughter will be left to the winter. And to a woman who insists that cruelty is just discipline, the candle on our corner table at Maple and Grant burns low enough to make my bifocals useless. So I leave them in my pocket and do what I've done all my life when the numbers blur. Listen. My daughter Lena laughs because the server has brought the cake with a sparkler stuck in the top, and my new daughter-in-law, Jennifer, raises her glass like she's giving a toast she practiced in the mirror. The room smells like butter and rosemary and the good part of March, when the wind hasn't quite learned to quit. But the coats are on a different hook. Barbara, Jennifer says, and the smile she's wearing is a fridge light. Bright, cool, a little wrong. I've been thinking about what would be best for the family, your house. It's just you rattling around in there. Why not transfer it now so we can start fresh with Emma? It's practical. We'll take good care of it. I set my fork down. The fork is heavier than it needs to be. It helps me not put it through her hand. 68 isn't ancient, and I can still carry 2 sheets of drywall up a flight if I'm mad enough. That's my home, I say. My voice is a low beam, straight, load-bearing. I built the back porch with my own hands. I'm not transferring anything. Lena's wedding ring glints when she touches my wrist. Mom, please don't start. Her voice is careful, boxed up in the politeness she learned standing between people when she was 12 and taller than everyone in homeroom. I'm starting, I say, but she's already looking at Jennifer, and Jennifer's shaking her head like we practiced this, and I missed rehearsal. Jennifer leans in, palms up. Hear me out. The market's hot. It would be safer for you in a retirement community. We can turn Emma's room into... I feel the deck boards I laid 20 years ago under my feet, though I'm sitting in a leather booth. I remember the first winter we spent in that house. The furnace I overhauled, the crib I assembled, the radiator hiss that sang Lena to sleep. The word safer changes temperature in my mouth. Emma's room is Emma's room, I say. She sleeps warm at Grandma's. What exactly are you proposing, Jennifer? Across the table, her smile tightens just a notch. An engineer's tolerance? A transfer. Immediate. We'll handle everything. The server comes by like a ghost with coffee, and we all pretend for 3 seconds that this is still a celebration. When she leaves, I breathe out. No, I say, and let the words sit on the white tablecloth between us. Not today. Not any day. Barbara, Jennifer says, and now the fridge light has dimmed. Think about what's practical. You're one person in a big house. The stairs. I built those stairs, I say. They've held me up for decades. Lena looks at me, then at her. Can we just got married. Maybe we table this? I slide 2 20s under the dessert plate for the tip and stand. Enjoy the cake, I tell them. Emma's with Mr. Torres across the street. I promised I'd be back before 9. The March wind slaps my cheeks on the way to the truck. And I take the long way home because my temper is a bad co-pilot. A few lines from an old blueprint run through my head. Every load has a path to ground. Find it and you can keep the whole thing from burning down. By the time I pull into my driveway, the porch light has carved a bright rectangle into the dark. The house is in that late winter mood, where it exhales just a little warmth into the night. I unlock the door and stand in the entryway with my hand on the banister I sanded until it felt like a river stone. The thermostat reads 60 degrees. I rub my thumb over the faceplate. Somebody's been economizing. I turn the dial back up to 69 degrees and listen for the furnace to catch, a sound that's meant home since 1985. The ducks start their muted thunder. My frustration loosens a notch. Grandma. Emma's voice from the hallway is cotton soft, sleepy. She's in superhero pajamas, hair stuck to her forehead in sweaty commas. Hey, champ, I say. You cold? She nods. Jennifer said it builds character. I squat until my knees pop. Warmth builds character too, I say. Especially in March. She smiles, the quick flash of a kid who believes you and doesn't need a multi-year study to prove it. I tuck her in, add the heavy quilt, and sit until her breath evens. On my way out, I pass the small notebook on her desk, crayon drawings of rockets, and a lopsided house with 4 windows, and a woman with a gray stripe in her hair. The woman's smile is a little too big. She's trying. Downstairs in my study, I take a legal pad from the drawer and write today's date at the top. Habit. I've always believed in clear lines and timestamps, things a jury and a conscience agree on. Jennifer wants the house, uses the word practical, mentions discipline around Emma. Thermostat lowered to 60. I underline that twice. My phone buzzes. A text from Lena. You left fast. Jennifer didn't mean to upset you. Can we talk in the morning? I stare at the screen until the letters lose their shapes. Then I set the phone face down and pull the deed from the safe. Paper smells like old pennies and glue. And if you keep it away from damp and fools, it lasts. An hour later, groceries thump into the passenger seat because I forgot we needed bread. I back out and almost bump into my neighbor, Martha Hayes, who steps into my headlights with her hand up like she's directing traffic. Barbara. She's wearing her old windbreaker and the expression she had back when she wore a badge. You got a minute? For you? I've got 10. She glances at my house, then leans in. Yesterday, I saw a woman in a suit on your porch. With Jennifer. Briefcase, clipboard, one of those laser measure things. They were out back too, taking pictures. She let herself in with a key. Martha pauses like the next sentence needs permission. Did you know about that? I feel the porch boards under my boots again. No, I say. The word has a different weight this time. Martha nods once, slow. Figured I should tell you? Thank you. I grip the steering wheel harder than necessary. You see a company name? Didn't catch one. The woman moved like she's done this 1,000 times. When she's gone, I sit there for 30 count and measure my breath by the click of the cooling engine. A suit with a laser measure. Pictures inside. With a key. My home shrinks and sharpens like a thumbnail image on a phone screen. I can take it in all at once, every corner, but it feels further away. I park, go straight to my study, and open my browser history. I'm not a paranoid woman. I'm a woman who checks the numbers twice before she pours the concrete. The list of recent searches reads like a manual for separating a fool from her roof. Property appraisers, real estate transfer forms, sell house quickly, cash buyer, power of attorney elderly, notary services near me. The dates and times line up with when I was at the hardware store buying screws. The cursor blinks stupidly. I scroll farther. Nursing home options. Assisted living intake. How to move mom gracefully. Gracefully. I breathe in through my nose. Slow. My hand finds the edge of the desk, the way you find a guardrail in the dark. I snap pictures of the screen with my phone, then cross-check the router log because I used to teach myself new toys by taking them apart. If you leave me in a room with a broken dishwasher and a Phillips head, you'll come back to a functioning machine and a schematic scribbled on an envelope. Same principle. The router shows a device name I don't recognize. Jennifer's laptop or the professional from the porch. Either way, the daylight on this thing is enough to raise a sun. The front door opens. Voices. Lena's laughter thin at the edges. Jennifer's tenor smooth as poured syrup. I close the browser and slide the legal pad into the drawer with the practice speed of someone who's hidden Christmas presents in plain sight. Mom? Lena's voice from the hallway. In here. They come in together. Jennifer first with a smile that's been refreshed since dinner. Lena trails half a step behind, eyes scanning me like a weather report. We wanted to talk, Jennifer says, sitting without being asked. She crosses her legs, hands folded, boardroom posture. I think we got off on the wrong foot at dinner. Did we? I ask. You seemed upset. I was clear. I say. That's different. Lena sits on the arm of the chair, one hand on Jennifer's shoulder. The geometry of it bothers me. Mom, we're not trying to push you out. We're trying to help. Help how? Jennifer takes the lead like she's been waiting for the cue. This house is a lot for one person. Maintenance, utilities, property taxes. If something happened to you... Something will happen to me, I say. It's called living until I don't. That's not a real estate transaction. But it could be easier, Jennifer presses. For everyone. We could manage the property, rent it out, use the equity to get you somewhere safe with people your age. I like my age, I say. And I like my house. Lena shifts. Mom, please. Just think about it. I have, I say. The answer is no. Jennifer's smile holds, but something behind it recalculates. We're not asking for a decision tonight, she says, voice dipped in honey. Just keep an open mind. My mind is open, I say. My deed is closed. After they leave, I sit in the study and listen to their car pull away. The house settles around me like an old coat. I open my laptop and start a new document. Timeline. Evidence log. The things you build when you know the foundation is about to be tested. At the top, I write, Operation Quiet Load. The next morning, I call Edward Mitchell. We've known each other since before email was a verb. He answered his own phone back then, and he still does now. Barbara. He says, warm as toast. What's the crisis? Potential fraud, I say. Daughter-in-law wants my house. Browser history shows she's been planning. Neighbor saw a professional appraiser with her on my property without my knowledge. Quit claim attempt. Feels like it. How far along? Dinner conversation stage. But moving fast. Edward is quiet for 3 beats. The kind of silence that means he's pulling files in his head. Can you come to my office today? Bring your phone, your router if it's portable, and anything that smells like documentation. 2 o'clock work? I'll clear the deck. Edward's office is downtown in a building that was new when Carter was president and has aged into respectability. His desk is a museum of yellow pads and coffee rings. Behind him, framed degrees share wall space with a picture of his grandkids in a canoe. He reads my timeline without commentary, scrolling through the screenshots I took of my browser history and the router log. Then he sets his glasses down and looks at me with the expression of a man who's seen this play before and didn't like the ending. This is textbook, he says. They're setting up a quick claim or a power of attorney play. Maybe both. How do I stop it? First, we freeze your credit. Second, we put a deed alert on file with the county so nothing gets recorded without a phone call to you personally. Third, he taps the router log. We document everything. If they're using your network to plan fraud, that's evidence. Third sounds like it needs a cop, I say. It might. He picks up his phone. I know someone at City PD, Elder Fraud Unit. Let me make a call. 20 minutes later, Edward has a name and a direct line. Detective Nora Hale. I drive home with a list of action items and the particular calm that comes from knowing the math is on your side, even if the weather isn't. That night, Lena calls. Emma's in the background singing something about ducks. Mom, I've been thinking. About? Last night, Jennifer and I talked. She wants to apologize. She doesn't need to apologize, I say. She needs to stop. Stop what? Searching my browser for real estate fraud templates. Bringing appraisers to my house without permission. Turning down my thermostat and telling Emma it's discipline. Silence. Then, what are you talking about? Check her laptop, I say. Search history. Dates and times will match. Mom, that's... She stops. I can hear her thinking. Are you sure? I'm looking at the router log right now. I'll call you back. She doesn't call back that night. But at 7 the next morning, there's a knock on my door. Lena, alone, with the hollowed-out face of someone who didn't sleep because they couldn't stop reading. I found it, she says, stepping inside. All of it. The searches, the saved templates, a draft deed with your forged signature. I put a mug in her hand. She wraps both palms around it like it's the only warm thing in the room. I don't know how to do this, she says. We'll do it one sentence at a time, I say, and we won't solve the whole house tonight. She looks relieved to be told not to fix everything. We talk, real talk. Not the kind with phrases that sound like they were printed at a seminar. I tell her what Edward found, the appraiser's visit, the patterns that keep showing up. I show her the page from my router log with the unfamiliar device. I don't push. I just lay the pieces on the table the way I did with her homework, when fractions made her cry. She tells me things I didn't know. Jennifer's bridge loans between jobs, the hints she drops about liquidating static assets, the way she talks about Emma's room like it's a home office with an inconvenient bed. She cries once and wipes it fast and apologizes for the apology. I chose her, she says. I brought her into this house. If you hate her, you'll... I don't hate her, I say. I hate what she's doing. I love you. Those are separate beams. We can fix one without tearing out the other. She breathes like a person surfacing. Thank you. We're clearing plates when the knock arrives. It arrives in the shape of a man in a uniform shirt with a logo I don't recognize, and a clipboard under plastic. He doesn't knock like a notary. He knocks like a delivery. I open the door on the chain. Evening, he says. Order for lock service. Got a work order here for a rekey and 2 new sets. From who? I ask. He glances at the form. Says homeowner authorization. Signed J. Mitchell. We were scheduled at 7. Homeowner authorization, I repeat. In my periphery, Lena stiffens. Wrong house, I say, calm. No work authorized here. Please note that. I close the door, heart doing a good imitation of a framing nailer. Jennifer is faster than I thought, or maybe exactly as fast. I dial Edward on speaker. He answers on the first ring. Talk to me. I keep it tight. Locksmith just showed up. Work order in my name. I didn't authorize it. He is quiet 3 beats. Hale just texted me. She says she's seen similar moves. Locksmiths, utility shutoff requests, suddenly scheduled safety inspections. I'm looping her in formally. You'll get a visit from City PD tonight. Friendly. To confirm you're safe and to put a note on file. No work orders to be honored without in-person confirmation from you. Lena is white around the mouth. She tried to change your locks, she says. She tried to scare me, I say. There's a difference. After I hang up, Lena stares at the door for a long time. Emma is not going anywhere near that, she says, voice low and flat, the tone she used when she once told a kid twice her size to leave a smaller one alone. Not while I'm breathing. The furnace kicks on. The house exhales. City PD arrives at 8:10. 2 uniforms who treat my living room like a person's place, and not a crime scene. One speaks into a shoulder mic with a voice like a bedtime story. Reads my ID and adds a standing note. Any contractor shows with a work order, ma'am. Have them call us for verification. She says we see this more than we like, the officer adds. Detective Hale. You'll probably meet her soon. After they leave, the neighborhood settles back into its hum. I walk Lena to the door. She hugs me tight, the kind that circles back to being 10. I'm sorry, Mom, she says into my shoulder. I didn't want to see it. Seeing is different than admitting you saw, I say. Both are hard. You did both tonight, she squares herself. Emma and I are staying at my place. Jennifer has a work trip tomorrow. I'll use the time to breathe. When she's gone and the house is only me again, I sit in the study and update the timeline. The page is beginning to look like a ladder. Each rung is something I can step on. At the bottom of the page, I write in heavier ink. Pattern confirmed. Escalation noted. I underline it once. In the hallway, the cheap clock blinks its clean little blink. I pour myself water and stand for a full minute listening, like I did the first night we brought Lena home, when every creak sounded like a test. The tests are different now. The method's the same. Break the problem into steps. Set the load paths. And don't let a woman who calls herself practical tell you that stealing is a kind of efficiency. My phone buzzes on the desk. A new text from a number I don't have saved. We can still do this quietly. Paper ready. 10 a.m. tomorrow. Don't make this messy for Lena. No name. No signature. The period at the end of Lena is the only punctuation in the whole thing. I take a screenshot. Then I forward it to Edward. He replies with 2 words. Good pressure. I type 2 back. Ready steps. I shut off the office light. Somewhere between here and morning, a fault line will widen. Good. I want to see exactly where it runs before I cut it and cap it. At 6:20 a.m., the house is pale and quiet. The kind of hour when even the refrigerator has manners. I'm carrying my second mug through the hallway when a pinprick of light catches at the ceiling. One blink, almost shy. I stop, step back. The CO detector I installed 3 years ago, cheap plastic puck, rental quality, has a lens the size of a pepper flake tucked in its face. It's new. I didn't put that there. Threats announce themselves if you give them silence. I fetch a step stool and a small screwdriver from the junk drawer. The puck turns with the resistance of something that would prefer not to. Inside, a wafer board, a dime-sized battery, and a micro SD card with its mouth half open, waiting for someone who doesn't check their ceilings. I stand there breathing through my nose, counting to 12. Then I pocket the card, replace it with a blank from my own kit, reassemble the detector, and set the stool back exactly where it was. Engineers and thieves both know you leave no new scuffs. In the study, I slide the card into a reader and wait while the computer does its little handshake. Folders appear like teeth. 2025-0314 and 2025-0315. I open the first. There we are. My own hallway. My own study door. Time-stamped. The audio is tiny but not useless. At 11:07 a.m. yesterday, Jennifer enters with the suited woman. The laser measure bright as a scalpel. My stomach tightens, but my hands stay steady. She'll sign if Lena asks, the suited woman says. The voice is smooth. A radio host who lost her station. If not, quit claim is still viable with a POA. Your notary is comfortable? Very, Jennifer answers. We just need to move before the market cools. I've got a buyer at cash in 30 days contingent. Then push the safer angle, the suited woman says, stepping into my study to measure the wall like she's buying it by the foot. Stairs, winter, fixed income, words that work. Gets you a discount on conscience. I watch them move through my house like they're rehearsing. At 7:18 p.m., there's another clip. The locksmith at the door and Jennifer's voice in the background on a phone speaker. If she complains, show the work order. She caves with paperwork. The thing about threats is that if you catch them early enough, they're also instructions. I copy the files twice, label them like evidence, and slide one copy into the safe. The second goes on a thumb drive in my pocket, next to a list of questions written clean as a blueprint. When my phone buzzes at 7:03 with Edward's name, I'm already walking to the truck. Got something? He asks. Camera in my ceiling. Video from yesterday. Voices and faces. That's your midpoint, he says. Approval tucked under the gravel. Bring the drive. Hale's coming to my office. City PD's Detective Nora Hale looks nothing like television and exactly like a person you'd tell the truth to by accident. Hair braided close, blazer that's seen winters. A notebook out before her hand sits down. She watches the clips without commentary, then rewinds twice at the part where the suited woman says, "Discount on conscience." "Appraiser," she says. "Name's David Preston." She taps the frame with her pen. We've had him on a whiteboard twice. Never stuck. The notary in your doorway yesterday matches a complaint I couldn't carry over a line last fall. This helps. Helps how far? I ask. To reasonable suspicion that a fraud ring is targeting you, she says. To probable cause when we get 1 or 2 more clean admissions. This is what we call a gift. She looks at me. You willing to be wired this morning? I think of the text on my phone. 10:00 a.m. Don't make this messy for Lena. Yes. She nods. One party consent in this state. You'll keep them talking. We'll be nearby. You don't hand over anything but hair. Edward leans forward. We'll control the place. You pick the table. We keep the rest of the chessboard simple. Location? I ask. Public, loud enough for cover. Not so loud we lose the tape. Hale says. Your diner. Good coffee, bad paint. 10 o'clock. Corner booth. Sight line to the door. We rehearse. It feels like building a jig. You measure twice and clamp everything down so the cut can't wander. Hale clips the recorder to the inside of my shirt with the neat competence of someone who's put on 100 of them. If you need us, she says, say the word thermostat. If they try to hand you anything to sign, you say, my lawyer has to read this first. If they push, you leave. I know how to say no, I tell her. I can see that, she says, and there's a quick human smile like sunlight on steel. At 9:48, I slide into the corner booth. The waitress brings me coffee, and a glance that says she remembers when Lena was small and used to balance jelly packets into towers. The recorder hums the way only I can hear. I text one line to the number from last night. Riverside Diner. 10. Corner booth. Jennifer arrives at 10:02 with the notary from yesterday, Stephen Cole, portfolio in hand, and the appraiser in his good coat. David Preston, radio voice turned down to polite. 3 people, 1 plan. They sit like they own air. Barbara, Jennifer says, warmth painted on. Thank you for being reasonable. Reasonable is a load that doesn't shift, I say. Let's be that. Stephen sets the portfolio on the table. The appraiser orders tea and calls me ma'am. Jennifer pulls out a sheet and begins her pitch as if we'd never met. A quick, clean quit claim. Deed transfers title to family. We'll include a life estate so you can stay indefinitely. We can get this notarized today. No fuss. Safer for everyone. Safer, I repeat, and tilt my head. Define that, she leans in. No strangers when you're alone. No stairs. No winter heating bills. Emma gets stability. And you get title, I say. Our family gets title, she corrects. Gentle, like the part where she tried to change my locks was an etiquette error. I tap the paper with one finger. Read me the part about the life estate. Jennifer does, in the voice of a woman who practiced in her bathroom mirror. It sounds generous. It smells like an exit ramp I would regret taking. And this part, I say, pointing to a paragraph full of familiar nouns. Power of attorney, Stephen clears his throat. That's just a contingent, he says smoothly. If you're on a trip or otherwise unable, purely administrative, we can remove it later. The notarial language is standard. Standard where? I ask. In state, he says unblinking. I do this every day. Do you also schedule locksmiths without a homeowner present? I ask him like I'm inquiring about the weather. He blinks once. Jennifer cuts in fast. Barbara, that was a misunderstanding. Of course, I say. I let the silence fill with their own noise. The appraiser leans forward, palms on the table like a man closing a sale. Ma'am, I've done hundreds of these. Families are happy. Seniors are protected. Your daughter, you don't get to use my daughter as a pry bar, I say softly. Stick to the work. He sits back, adjusts his coat, sips tea he doesn't want. Let's do it this way, I say, friendly as a neighbor borrowing a ladder. Walk me step by step through today. Exact steps. I'm a sequence person. Jennifer smiles like a woman who thinks she's won. We sign the quitclaim. Stephen notarizes. We file at the clerk's office by 4. Once recorded, we can do a utilities transfer. David will get a valuation. Same day? I ask. For a returning client, yes, the appraiser says. Radio voice turned 2 clicks brighter. We have a standing template. Template, I repeat. I lift the paper and hold it at an angle to the light. Looks computer-generated. Guided form. Stephen says, makes it easy for folks. You pulled one from my address last night, I say. Something moves under Jennifer's skin like a fish in shallow water. Then she smooths it down. We've been thinking ahead, she says. It's what families do. I set the paper down and meet her eyes the way you meet a level to a beam. I don't sign anything today, I say. My lawyer reads everything. If a person shows up at my house with tools or a notary seal without my invitation, I call City PD. I sip my coffee. That's what families do. She studies me. Patience on her face. A clock in her jaw. Barbara, she says, soft. Don't make this messy for Lena. We can do it quietly, or we can do it with more people. More people sounds fine, I say. I like witnesses. In the booth behind them, a spoon clinks against a mug. I don't look. I've been in enough rooms with enough inspections to know when the air is wired and watched. Hale will be back there somewhere, or someone she trusts, counting every time the word sign gets said. The appraiser tries one more tack. Ma'am, this is just paper. A formality. You keep living exactly as you are. You'll feel safer knowing you've taken care of business. Business is keeping my granddaughter warm, I say. Paper doesn't do that. People do. Stephen folds his hands, interlaces fingers with the care of a man who never grips anything tighter than a pen. If your attorney wants to add language, we can accommodate. The key is getting a clean title path today. There are tax advantages. For you, I say. I'm not allergic to taxes. I paid mine when I didn't have 2 nickels to argue about. Jennifer's smile thins. Why are you being difficult? I'm not, I say. I'm being load-bearing. Silence, then the honest kind. Stephen glances at his watch. The appraiser sets his tea down too lightly to pretend he doesn't care. Okay, Jennifer says at last. Exhale smooth as an apology she won't keep. We'll regroup. Don't do anything you'll regret. I was thinking the same, I say. They stand. The appraiser nods at me with professional politeness he didn't earn. Stephen tucks his portfolio under his arm and leaves a business card on the table as if cards are spells. After they're out, I sit very still and let the recorder hum for 30 seconds more. The waitress appears like a magician. You want that warmed up? She asks, as if I didn't just have people try to buy my roof out from under my coffee. Please, I say. Hale slides into the booth a minute later, badge half shown, notebook already open. You did fine, she says. Better than fine. Did we get enough? We got a plan in their words, she says. Quick claim today, record today, appraiser on call, locksmith in the mix. That plus your camera footage, plus the attempted rekey and the text message. She taps her pen, gets us to paper. I can get a judge to sign on a warrant for her devices and for the notary's files. We'll execute Monday morning. How long? I ask. To arrest? Maybe a week. To trial? 6 months if we're fast. Year if they lawyer up smart. And in the meantime, you live your life, she says. We watch hers. Edward joins us 5 minutes later with the satisfied posture of a man who just logged billable hours that will make someone else very unhappy. That was textbook entrapment avoidance, he says. You didn't offer. They pushed. You documented. Beautiful. What happens next? I ask. Hale gets her warrants. We file a restraining order to keep Jennifer off your property. And we wait. I'm not good at waiting. Neither are criminals, Hale says. That's why they make mistakes. The warrants execute on a Tuesday morning. I'm not there, but Edward calls me from the courthouse steps with the play-by-play. Stephen Cole's office yields 3 filing cabinets, full of pre-signed documents, forged acknowledgments, and a contact list that makes the DA smile like Christmas came early. David Preston's storage unit contains boxes labeled by address. Mine is there. So are 40 others. Jennifer's laptop and phone are seized from her car during a traffic stop that Hale describes as cooperative, if you define cooperative as not running. By Thursday, charges are filed: conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted theft by deception, forgery. The DA holds a press conference on the courthouse steps and uses the word ring 6 times. Lena calls me that night. Emma's in the background, singing something about astronauts. Mom, I filed for divorce. Good. I'm sorry. You don't apologize for getting out of a burning building, I say. You just leave and lock the door. She laughs, tired and real. I'm staying at my place. Emma asked if we can come over Saturday for pancakes. Bring syrup, I say. Mine crystallized. Trial takes 9 months. Jennifer's attorney tries the family misunderstanding defense until the DA plays the ceiling camera footage in open court. The jury watches Jennifer and David Preston discuss liquidating the asset while measuring my study. The deliberation takes 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Stephen Cole pleads out 3 weeks later in a conference room that smells like overbrewed coffee. Edward is there. So is the DA, a sharp woman named Hayes, who treats plea deals like structural engineering. Load-bearing or it doesn't stand. Ringleader with the loyalty of a man who has none left. Edward says afterward. David Preston fights longer. He files motions like someone laying down rugs over bad floor. Hayes hears them, rules, and the rugs go out with the trash. In discovery, the DA plays our diner tape and my porch recording and the parking lot assignment footage from a separate sting operation I wasn't part of. The jury doesn't need blueprints. The studs are visible to the naked eye. Jennifer's turn comes in a different conference room. Her attorney is good at the kind of politeness that delays gravity. Edward is better at the kind that invites it to do its job. The DA lays out counts she could wear, and counts she's willing to hold in reserve. Jennifer signs a plea to conspiracy to commit fraud and attempted theft by deception. She calls it a misunderstanding. The paper calls it a record. At sentencing, Judge Hayes doesn't grandstand. She reads the names of the seniors whose houses appeared in those neat labeled boxes. Some signed and were unwound after months of fear and fees. Some didn't sign and still lived with winter in their vents. She orders restitution to the people who can be made whole by money and recommends time where time will be felt. David Preston goes in. Stephen Cole loses his stamp forever and does months that will feel longer than they look on paper. Jennifer gets a mix of probation that doesn't feel merciful, community service that will not flatter her, and a restitution line that cuts into her liquid life. When it's my turn to speak, I say 15 words. Houses are for warmth. Paper should not be a crowbar. Thank you for making it stop. Hayes nods like a woman who's heard 15 good words in a week and is happy to make them 15 and 1. After, on the courthouse steps, Hale stands with her coat unbuttoned to weather and speaks to 3 reporters who only want 1 sentence. She gives them 2. If you feel pressure about your deed, call. If you're told, sign fast, slow down, then she tucks her hands in her pockets and goes back to work, the way good people do when no one is filming. Life returns in layers. I replace the fake CO detector with a real one that chirps when it should. I fix the creaky stare because some creaks are the kind you choose, and some are the kind you don't. I change the safe code to something no one can guess, and everyone in my house can find if they need to. The number of bolts in the back porch ledger, plus Emma's favorite number, which changes weekly but is written on a post-it in the box with the passports. Edward and I sit with a yellow pad and build a small trust, not because I'm leaving, but because I intend to stay. It's precise and boring and warm like good insulation. We add a letter that says, if anyone asks about a quitclaim without me in the room, the answer is no. And then the phone call is to Edward. We put copies in the places that matter. Safe. Folder. Mind. Lena's divorce is its own timeline, longer than either of us think fair. exactly as long as it takes. She buys a second-hand table and lets Emma paint the underside blue, because no one sees that part. She never says Jennifer's name at my house. She doesn't have to. On Saturdays, Emma and I build rockets and bridges and one glorious disaster of a trebuchet that throws an orange 3 patios over and ends an argument with gravity by agreeing with it when she asks me once if being brave means not crying. I tell her being brave means caring about the right thing louder than the scared thing. She looks like she's filing that somewhere she plans to use later. Good. Martha keeps pretending to adjust her mailbox long after the show is over. We drink coffee on our porches and criticize each other's work like surgeons, correcting stitches in the dark. One afternoon, she shuffles over with a flyer from the library. Elder Safety Night, avoiding property scams. She grins under her expression. They asked for you. I said you'd come if the heat was on, and the coffee didn't taste like sadness. The library smells like old pages and new toner. Hale stands at the front in a sweater she didn't have the last time I saw her. Edward in a tie he's owned since court had chalkboards. 30 people sit with pens and faces that say they know the price of heat. I bring a checklist I call Quiet Load and pass it out like spare bolts. Don't sign tired. Don't sign alone. Freeze your credit. Photograph your deeds before people who say professional arrive. Router logs tell the truth. If someone says safer, ask for whom. Write dates. Keep heat at 69 degrees if you like it. They laugh at the last one. Then we talk for an hour that feels like 10 minutes. When it's over, a woman with a carpenter's hands waits until the line thins and shows me a notary stamp on her phone. They brought this to my porch, she says. I told them to leave. Felt crazy. You felt correct, I tell her. On a Saturday in late spring, the county DA sends a letter with numbers that turn into a check I don't need and send where it's needed more, to a fund the office keeps for people who didn't catch the creek in time. I keep the letter and tape it to the wall next to my timeline, then take the whole set down, because there's a difference between vigilance and reliving. We launch a rocket in the park that afternoon. Emma counts down in a voice that will someday fill larger rooms. The glue is set. The fins are true this time. It lifts clean, climbs steady, and arcs exactly where math says it will. She jumps like her bones are springs. I watch the little white parachute bloom and think about paper that saves, and paper that harms, and the hand that holds the pen. Either way, when we get home the house is the right temperature, without anyone having to argue with it. A new real CO detector blinks at the ceiling. The creaky stair is just a stare. Lena sits at the table grading papers from the high school, where she started subbing last month. She looks up, eyes clear. How high? She asks. Truer, I say. And she smiles because she speaks my language. Now I take the taped pages from the wall, Operation Quiet Load and the Ladder of Days, and slide them into a manila folder labeled with a new word. Done. It goes in the safe next to passports, and the photocopy of my deed, and a hand-drawn map to the shop vac handle where a backup thumb drive still lives. I shut the door and spin the dial until the world inside hums, private and sure. After dinner, I stand on the back porch with my mug and watch the long light lay boards into gold. The neighborhood is itself. Dogs with opinions, wind chimes with more. A piano from 2 houses over trying to decide if it remembers Claire de Lune. Somewhere in the city, paperwork is being filed that will keep a clerk from stamping a thing they shouldn't. Somewhere else, a woman in a good coat is learning the temperature of time. I'm not naive. Beams still bow. Weather still comes. But I know my load paths, and now so do a few more neighbors. And that's enough for tonight. Inside, Emma sleeps warm in a room that is hers, because we say so and because paper says so, and because doors in this house open and close on hinges that answer to us. I touch the banister I sanded smooth years ago, and it feels like a river stone, like something that took hands and time and held. Thermostat, Lena calls from the kitchen. Teasing. Set and steady. I say, and mean more than heat. I switch off the porch light. The boards take my weight exactly as designed.